Tokyo lies beneath a bruised pre-dawn sky, the kind that feels neither night nor morning but something, suspended between breaths. A pale metallic cold slips through the cracks of the airfield barracks, whispering against tin walls and rattling. Loose window panes like anxious fingers tapping for attention. Inside, sleep comes only in fragments, thin, brittle pieces that shatter at every distant rumble from the city's wounded heart. Lieutenant Hiroshi Takeda stands outside on the narrow concrete balcony, boots planted where frost clings like a second skin. He doesn't move. He barely blinks. He only holds an unlit cigarette between his fingers because the small weight keeps his trembling hand from betraying what he refuses to name as fear. His breath rises in thin white threads, dissolving before reaching the broken roofs of Tokyo below. The air smells faintly of dust, engine oil, and the lingering ghost of firestorms that swept through districts now reduced to skeletal frames. Even the wind tastes of aftermath, dry, metallic, as if it carries flakes of memory from the burned-out night. Behind him, inside the dim barracks, a young pilot coughs again, harsh and wet, followed by the soft rustle of blankets pulled tighter against thin shoulders. These new boys arrived only days ago, pale, hollow-cheeked, uniforms hanging off them like borrowed ghosts. They try to smile, try to stand straight, try to believe the war still has shape. But Hiroshi sees the truth each time they look toward the sky. An instinctive flinch, a shrinking, as though the heavens themselves have turned predatory. He presses his palm against the cold railing. It bites his skin. Good. The pain reminds him he is still here, still tethered to something solid while everything else drifts like smoke. In the distance, the first engine sputters awake, rough, uneven, coughing like an old man rising from a hard floor. Hiroshi's fingers tighten around the cigarette. Today, rumors say, something is coming. Something fast. Something impossible. But rumors are nothing. And yet, the wind feels different, like it knows. The trucks arrive before sunrise, engines grinding like tired beasts forced to move one more mile than they were ever built for. Their headlights cut thin, shaky tunnels through the morning haze as mechanics and ground. Crew shuffle across the tarmac, shoulders hunched against the cold. Hiroshi climbs into the back of the second truck with the others, the metal bed freezing even through the soles of his boots. The smell inside is a dense mixture of damp wool, old fuel, and unspoken dread. No one talks. The men only sit with their knees pressed together, helmets in their laps, eyes lowered as the truck jolts forward. Every bump sends a tremor through their spines. Dust rises from the wooden planks beneath them, catching in their throats like powdered rust. Hiroshi rests his hand on the metal rim of his oxygen mask. The rubber feels stiff, almost brittle. He wonders how many more flights it will survive, how many more he will. The city slips by outside, a blur of broken chimneys, blackened wooden beams, and washing lines strung with patched uniforms that sway in the cold, breeze like quiet surrender flags. Children stand barefoot at doorways, watching the trucks pass with wide, unreadable eyes. Their faces look older than their years, carved thin by hunger and weeks of smoke-filled air. As they cross a narrow bridge, Hiroshi glimpses the river below, dull, sluggish, carrying floating scraps of debris from parts of Tokyo now gone. The water reflects a sky that feels too large, too empty, as if the world has been hollowed out overnight. A young pilot beside him, barely 17, clutches a small cloth pouch to his chest. Something rigid is inside, perhaps a wooden charm, perhaps a fragment of home. His thumb rubs the fabric over and over, creating a faint rasping sound that somehow feels louder than the engine. Hiroshi closes his eyes briefly, letting the vibrations of the truck surge through him. Every mile brings them closer to the airfield, closer to the sky, closer to whatever waits above Tokyo this morning, whether it's death, surprise, or something entirely unimaginable. The airfield emerges through the thinning mist like a half-remembered dream, familiar in shape, yet wrong in its silence. Usually mornings here crackle with noise, shouted orders, clattering tools, engines warming like restless animals. But today an uneasy stillness clings to every surface. Even the crows perched along the hangar roof seem reluctant to speak. Hiroshi steps down from the truck, boots sinking slightly into damp earth. The cold immediately sinks its teeth into his ankles. Mechanics hurry past with clipped, nervous movements, their faces tight, eyes flicking toward the sky as if expecting something to tear through it at any moment. He follows his squadron toward the briefing hut, a squat wooden building smelling of stale tobacco and ink that's soaked too deep into the walls. Inside, condensation beads on the windows, turning the outside world into an indistinct blur. A single kerosene lamp flickers on the corner table, throwing long, wavering shadows across maps pinned to the peeling walls. Captain Morizawa enters with a stack of papers, his gloves still on, his jaw set so rigidly it looks painful. He doesn't clear his throat. He doesn't greet them. He simply lays the papers down and speaks in a voice too calm to be reassuring. Intelligence reports unusual activity approaching from the southeast. A stir moves through the room, small, sharp, like the rustling of leaves before a storm. Unusual? Someone whispers. Morizawa's eyes flick up. New types, fighters, fast, very fast. The young pilot with the cloth pouch clutches it tighter, knuckles whitening. Hiroshi leans forward, trying to read the captain's expression. But Morizawa gives nothing away. He only taps the map where Tokyo Bay curves inward like a cupped hand. No one engages alone. Stay tight. Conserve altitude. A mechanic bursts in without knocking. Breathless, 2 words tumbling out like stones. They're coming. For a heartbeat, no one moves. Then Hiroshi feels it. The trembling in the floorboards, faint but building, as if the earth itself is drawing a long, shuddering breath. Engines. Distant, but fast. Too fast. A chill runs down his spine, sharper than cold. Whatever is approaching isn't what they were trained for. The first Mustang appears like a streak of silver fire cutting through the morning haze. So fast, Hiroshi's eyes struggle to accept it as real. One heartbeat, the sky is empty. The next, it's full, alive with the roar of engines unlike anything he has ever heard. The sound is deeper, cleaner, almost predatory, as if shaped by confidence itself. Someone shouts, 4 o'clock, hi! Another voice cracks, how fast is that? Hiroshi steps out into the open, instinct overriding caution. The cold wind slaps his face, carrying the sharp scent of aviation fuel and something else, fear, rising like steam from the gathered pilots. He squints upward. The second Mustang drops out of a thin cloud bank, sleek, polished, impossibly graceful, wings cutting the air with the certainty of a blade, and beneath each wing, like swollen metallic fruit, hang drop tanks, strange bulbous shapes glinting faintly in the pale light. Drop tanks? Hiroshi whispers. He didn't think the Americans could reach Tokyo with fighters. Not fighters this fast, not fighters built like this. A diary entry forms itself in the back of his mind before he can stop it. It isn't that they arrived, it's that they arrived with fuel to spare. The Mustangs bank together, climbing with effortless power. Their engines don't cough or strain. They sing, a smooth, confident hum that feels almost arrogant against the frail rattle of Japanese machines warming on the ground. The young pilot with the cloth pouch steps beside Hiroshi, eyes wide, breath trembling. They look invincible, he whispers, the word almost shameful. Hiroshi can't answer. His throat feels too tight. Another flight of Mustangs slices across the horizon, sunlight catching their wings and exploding into brilliance. They move in tight formation, sharp, precise, unwavering. Not a wavering line, not a desperate climb. Perfect symmetry, perfect control. Around Hiroshi, men who once spoke with bravado now stand frozen, their helmets hanging loosely in their hands. The air tastes different, thicker, charged, as if saturated by the sheer velocity of what they've just witnessed. Tokyo lies silent beneath them, and for the first time, the sky doesn't belong to Japan. The Mustangs vanish as suddenly as they appeared, leaving only the fading echo of their engines humming through Hiroshi's ribs. But something heavier lingers, a weight that settles over the airfield like drifting ash. No one speaks for several breaths. No one can. By noon, the routine resumes, though it feels hollow, mechanical. Pilots move through motions their minds can no longer inhabit fully. Hiroshi walks toward the mess hall. Though hunger is a stranger now, dulled by adrenaline, sharpened by dread. The mess hall smells of boiled rice, stretched too thin and miso that carries more water than flavor. The wooden floor creaks beneath boots worn down to softened leather. A thin line of pilots forms, each man holding a metal bowl with tiny chips along its rim. When Hiroshi receives his portion, he stares at it for a moment. A small scoop of rice, grayish, clumped, a few wilted radish slices, floating in broth so translucent he can see the bottom of the bowl. The steam rising from it smells faintly of earth and exhaustion. He sits beside the young pilot with the cloth pouch. The boy unwraps it slightly, revealing a fragment of wooden charm, edges worn smooth from endless rubbing. A family prayer, Hiroshi guesses. A reminder that somewhere beyond all this, someone still waits. They say Americans eat meat every day, the boy murmurs, voice hushed as if uttering a forbidden myth. Real meat. Hiroshi sets his spoon down, listening to the whisper of wind through the broken window pane. He remembers the American fighters, sleek, polished, roaring with the sound of engines fed by abundance. They must have fuel stores we can't imagine. Someone nearby mutters. Food we haven't tasted in years. A mechanic joins in, wiping oil from his hands. And still they fly all the way here with tanks to spare. Hiroshi takes a slow sip of broth. The liquid is warm but hollow, unable to fill the growing ache in his stomach, or the deeper one settling in his chest. A single thought forms, unwelcome and cold. If their planes are this well fed, what must their pilots be like? He lowers his bowl, appetite gone. The next morning, frost clings to the edges of the barracks doors, turning every metal hinge pale and brittle. Hiroshi is tightening the strap on his flight boot when a low murmur spreads across the airfield, soft at first, then growing, like ripples climbing toward a breaking wave. He steps outside. A crippled transport truck, one of theirs, has stalled near the main gate, steam rising weakly from its engine block. Two mechanics bang on the hood with frozen tools, cursing under their breath. Inside the truck bed, crates of medical supplies lie stacked like fragile promises. The gate guard suddenly straightens. Something approaches. A formation of American Mustangs sweeps overhead, not attacking, not even banking aggressively, just passing. Their silver bellies flash in the morning sun, casting mirrored glints onto the ground like falling shards of light. But it's not the planes that draw the whispers. It's what falls from one of them. A small object drifts down, slow and almost graceful, attached to a strip of cloth fluttering like a pale wing. It lands softly near the stalled truck, bouncing once on the frost-hardened dirt. A message, wrapped carefully, deliberate. No one moves at first. Then the captain himself steps forward, boots crunching on frozen ground. Hiroshi watches as Morizawa crouches, lifts the small bundle, and hesitates. His gloved fingers brush the cloth, unfolding it with the caution of someone diffusing a story rather than a bomb. Inside is a canister, American food rations, and a strip of paper. Medical truck, the captain reads in a low voice. Safe passage. The mechanics exchange stunned glances. One's jaw trembles, not from cold, but confusion, gratitude, fear of what gratitude means. Hiroshi feels something foreign crack inside him. A shift, a betrayal of everything he's been told. The young pilot clutches his wooden charm, whispering, "Why would they help us?" Hiroshi has no answer. The greatest shock is not their speed, not their reach, not even their strength. It's their restraint, their choice to show dignity to the enemy who cannot match them. The wind carries the faint scent of the American ration can. Rich, savory, impossibly warm. It smells like a world he has never known.